Why was America's best general fired after his greatest triumph? August 1943. Sicily. Smoke choked the summer sun. Troina, a German fortress, lay in ruins. The U.S. 1st Infantry, the Big Red One, fought their way up ridges under heavy fire. This was arguably the hardest battle for the American army in Europe so far. Amidst the destruction stood General Terry de la Mesa Allen, the architect of victory. With a grimy GIS, Allen wasn't just a commander, he was a god. He was the only general who seemed to care if they lived or died. He led them through North Africa, forging them into a weapon against the Wehrmacht. By all accounts, Terry Allen was at his career peak, the hero of Sicily. But miles away, Lieutenant General Omar Bradley was preparing to relieve him. Before the smoke even cleared, the decision was made. Terry Allen was out. He wasn't resting or promoted. He was being fired. This news shocked the soldiers. How could the army fire its best general after his greatest triumph? The answer reveals a dark, complex truth of World War II command. Allen wasn't fired for incompetence or losing. He was fired because he'd become a living paradox. Too good to lose, too dangerous to keep. To understand why the army destroyed its best fighter's career, you need to know. Terrible Terry. While other officers were polished managers, Allen was a gladiator. His conflict with the establishment started decades before the war. While officers like Bradley aced exams, Allen washed out of West Point. He flunked math and ordnance. Most would quit. Allen didn't. He studied, passed an exam, and rejoined the cavalry through the back door. He never lost his reputation as the class screw-up. He was the opposite of the ideal soldier's general. Allen didn't look like a general. He looked like a sergeant who hadn't slept. He hated ties, his uniform was wrinkled, and he preferred whiskey to generals. He was rebellious, running his division like a loyal street gang. But a deeper vulnerability made his soldiers love him, a severe stutter. In meetings, he'd struggle to speak. This was humiliating for a commander. But a transformation happened when the shooting started. Under fire, his stutter vanished. His voice boomed, clear and decisive. He directed troops with conductor-like precision. When asked about this change, Allen famously said, "I was too busy shooting krauts to stutter." He was built for war, not for the army. And he wasn't alone. His second in command was Brigadier General Theodore Roosevelt, Jr. Roosevelt was as wild as Allen, often on the front lines with a cane. Together, they were a reckless duo, Batman and Robin with artillery. They created a culture where only fighting mattered, and army rules were suggestions. To understand their dangerous God complex, we go back to rock bottom, Kasserine Pass. February 1943. A humiliation. Green American troops were crushed by Rommel's Africa Corps. Equipment lost. Lines collapsed. The American soldier's reputation shattered. The 1st Infantry Division was there, fighting better than most, but part of a defeated army. From this disaster, Allen rebuilt his men. He told them failure was due to incompetent commanders and weak units. He drilled one toxic, effective truth. We are the Big Red One. We are the only real killers. The proof came weeks later at El Guitar. The 1st Division held against a massive tank assault. They didn't run. They destroyed tanks with artillery and grit. It was the first major American victory. Allen had turned a beaten dog into a wolf. But victory had a cost. The Big Red One stopped seeing themselves as part of the Allied force. They became a separatist state. Their ragged uniforms horrified inspectors. They discarded gear, left helmet straps unbuckled, wore scarves like pirates. To Allen, this lack of polish was a badge of honor. Their prima donna attitude exploded. They raided supply depots, hijacked wine. They famously brawled with Patton's MPs. They refused to salute other officers, treating their patches as a license to do anything. Bradley watched this with alarm. Allen had created a monster. By convincing his men they were superior to overcome Kasserine's trauma, Allen made them unmanageable. Bradley feared this would lead to disaster. He wasn't just dealing with discipline. He was dealing with a private army loyal only to Allen. To see the depth of Allen's bond with his men, we turn to Ernie Pyle, the legendary war correspondent who lived with the infantry. He cared about the human soul of war, and he fell in love with the Big Red One. He spent weeks embedded with Allen's unit in Tunisia. What Pyle saw amazed him. Other generals were distant. Allen slept on the ground, shared rations with privates, and gave Pyle full access. Pyle wrote home, calling Allen a father figure. He captured the division's unique spirit: arrogance, exhaustion, and fierce loyalty. Pyle noted the 1st Division men felt like orphans in the rest of the army. They believed no one understood, respected, or could fight like them, except Terry Allen. When Pyle heard of Bradley's concerns about discipline, he defended the soldiers. He said, "They might look like pirates, but they fought like demons." Removing Allen wouldn't just remove a general, it would rip the heart out of the division. He realized Allen made a monster. He convinced his men they were superior to beat Kasserine trauma. Allen made them wild. Bradley worried this ego trip would end badly. This was way more than just a discipline issue. He was up against Terry Allen's private army, totally loyal to him and hostile to U.S. military's finest. You want to see the real bond between Terry Allen and his men? It's simple. Military intel only. Ernie Pyle, America's most trusted voice, has a story for you. Pyle, the legend who lived in the mud with the troops. He didn't care about strategy, he cared about the human heart of war. Pyle was hooked on the Big Red One, weeks embedded with Allen's unit in Tunisia. Pyle was stunned by what he saw. Generals? More like ghosts in mansions far from the front lines. He found Terry Allen sleeping rough, sharing food with the regular soldiers. Allen let Pyle report freely, no censorship, nothing to hide. Pyle wrote to Americans back home, describing Allen not as more than a commander, he's a father figure. He truly captured this division's unique spirit, a blend of arrogance, exhaustion, fierce loyalty. The 1st Division men felt like orphans. Nobody got them. No one could touch them, except Terry Allen. When Pyle heard Bradley might ditch Allen over discipline, he wrote exactly what every soldier in the trenches felt. He said they might look like pirates, but they fought like demons. Removing a general? Nah, they'd be ripping the heart out of this division. Pyle made Allen famous, but that fame might have backfired. It just made him a bigger target. Bradley didn't need a star. He needed a soldier who followed orders. The tension from North Africa exploded in Sicily. The enemy wasn't German. It was British pride. General Patton was laser-focused on one thing: beating Montgomery to Messina. It was a political race for glory. Patton pushed his troops to the impossible. He drove his men relentlessly, and Terry Allen took the hardest hits. Allen was ordered to capture Troina. This wasn't just a town, it was a mountaintop fortress, the heart of the German defenses. The 15th Panzer Grenadiers were dug in, with orders to fight to the death. The Battle of Troina became the Big Red One's worst week of combat yet. It was pure hell. Imagine fighting uphill, under a blazing sun, with artillery raining down. Every inch of ground cost blood. The heat was brutal, malaria was rampant, and death hung heavy in the air. This is where Terry Allen's struggle hit its limit. He'd been in command since North Africa, with no breaks. Battle fatigue wasn't just a word, it was his reality. Allen was running on whiskey, adrenaline, and no sleep. He was gaunt, his eyes hollow, his nerves shot. Under the immense pressure, Allen's behavior became erratic. He saw enemies everywhere, not just ahead, but behind him. When Bradley or Patton demanded speed, Allen didn't act like a subordinate. He acted like a dad protecting his kids. He argued fiercely about tactics. He accused high command of sacrificing his men for headlines. Bradley's breaking point came during a tragic friendly fire incident. When American bombers hit the 1st Division, Allen didn't just get angry. He lost it. He wept. He raged. He cursed the sky and the brass. To his soldiers, it showed their commander cared. But to Bradley, watching from the sidelines, it was a diagnosis. He saw a general who'd lost his objectivity. Allen had become too attached to his men. He couldn't make the hard decisions needed to lead a corps. He wasn't fighting the war anymore. He was fighting for his boys. Bradley realized Allen was burnt out. His tactical mind was sharp, but the emotional strength to lead 15,000 men was gone. Troina would be won, thanks to Allen's brilliant night attacks. But it marked the end of his command. He'd conquered the mountain, but it had broken him. On August 7, 1943, the order came. Troina was secured. The troops were heading back to rest, cleaning off the Sicily grime, thinking their commander was planning the next move. They were wrong. Allen got a summons to 2nd Corps HQ. No ceremony, just a quiet drive away from the front. Meeting was brief, cold, and devastating. Bradley called Terry Allen and his deputy Teddy Roosevelt Jr. in. No yelling, just the sterile finality of military orders. Bradley told them they were relieved of command. The duo who'd led the division from disaster to triumph were finished. They handed it over to Major General Clarence Hubner, a tough disciplinarian brought in to shake things up. Allen was stunned. He'd just delivered the Army's hardest victory of the campaign. To be fired at the peak of triumph felt like a betrayal. But in that small trailer, the rebel general stayed calm. He accepted the order like a pro. His only worry was his men. He knew without him, the Big Red One would face tough drills and strict rules. But why did Bradley do it then? Historians debate, but it was a mercy. Bradley wasn't punishing Allen, he was saving him. He saw Allen was emotionally and physically drained. The general who wept couldn't lead the Normandy invasion. Bradley also needed to break the cult of personality. He needed the 1st Infantry Division to be part of the Army, not Allen's private force. By removing the father figure, Bradley forced the men to grow up. It was brutal, but in total war, it was likely the right call. Allen went home, not disgraced, but too wild for the war, too valuable to forget. Bradley's fear that the division was too loyal to Allen proved true. The transition to Hubner was almost disastrous. Hubner was the opposite of Allen. He was a strict disciplinarian, stickler for rules who believed proper salutes led to proper shooting. He walked into a lion's den in Sicily. The Big Red One saw Hubner not as a new commander, but as an occupier. They booed him. They glared with pure hate. Soldiers deliberately messed up drills. It was a near mutiny. Hubner ordered intense training after Sicily. The resentment was thick. Veterans felt insulted, believing the Army was punishing them for winning. It took Hubner months of hard work and leading from the front. Those first weeks showed why Bradley had to fire Allen. The 1st Infantry Division wasn't a U.S. Army unit anymore. It was Terry Allen's personal cult. If they'd gone into Normandy, rejecting anyone but Allen, Omaha could have been a disaster. Bradley's mercy kill saved the division, but nearly broke it. If the story ended here, it'd be a tragedy. But Terry Allen was a fighter, and fighters don't quit. After rest in the U.S., he needed to heal his nerves. General Marshall gave him a second chance. He got command of a new unit, the 104th Infantry Division, the Timberwolves. This was his redemption. He trained these new recruits with the same fire. But this time, he used the lessons learned from his firing. He kept the aggression, but added discipline. The Timberwolves hit Europe in 1944. They became famous for night attacks, Allen's signature move. They fought through Belgium and Germany with terrifying efficiency, but without the rebellious chaos of the 1st Division. Allen proved he could win without losing control. But the Allen family story has a haunting postscript, echoing war's toll. Decades later, another Terry Allen went to war. Lieutenant Colonel Terry Allen Jr., the general's son, followed him to West Point and into the infantry. In October 1967, deep in Vietnam, Terry Allen Jr. led his battalion into an ambush. The unit he commanded was the 2nd Battalion of the 28th Infantry. The irony is heartbreaking. It was a unit of the 1st Infantry Division. The son died fighting in the same Big Red One his father made legendary. He died, leading his men from the front, just as his father would have done. So, how do we judge Bradley's firing of Terry Allen today? Bradley's decision is still debated, but it shows the paradox of leadership. You need men like Terry Allen, wild, aggressive, and inspiring. He inherited the legendary Red One. Then, he led them into action. Man up, just like Dad would. But was this shot a good call? Terry Allen today? Omar Bradley's call still sparks debate, but it shows the military leadership paradox. You need wild, aggressive, inspiring leaders like Terry Allen to teach soldiers how to kill and survive. But you need men like Omar Bradley, cold, systematic, and ruthless to win wars. Terry Allen was the ultimate warrior, a man who loved soldiers too much to play by the rules. He was fired for refusing to be a manager in a war that demanded it. In the end, he was too good to lose, but for that specific moment in history, he was too dangerous to keep. That's the burden of command.